Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Fall fishing. Got it. That's what we're talking about here. Fall fishing, things start dying, grass, vegetation starts to die off. You get the lily pads in the lake, you get the little stems. You got two bites going on. You got deep shad chasers and you got shallow fish. They sometimes chase shad, but they'll stay and they'll eat frogs, bluegill, whatever they can get their hands on because they're freaking out. Winter's coming, they gotta feed up. So that's what we're gonna go through today and talk about some tips and techniques that are gonna help you out. Oh God! Yeah, sitting right there at the top. Woo! A little better fish. Yes, sir. There we go. There we go. There's a zinger fish right there. So, let me tell you some of your best friends for the fall, lure-wise. It's a nice healthy fish, let him go. Spinnerbaits, crankbaits, anything that is representing a shad becomes very good in the fall because bass in a lot of different bodies of water, some of the population becomes pelagic. What I mean by that, that's a kind of an ocean term, but that fish like tuna, you know, they don't really relate to structure and things like that. They literally just chase bait, and that's what they're zoned in on. And bass will become the same way sometimes in the fall because they get focused on feeding on shad. They want that fat, they want that protein, and they see shad and they just start going along. There's schools of them that just chase those shad all through the fall. It's a really good idea to have shad type baits. So some of the funnest can be the topwater. So walking style baits, I'll prefer more in the fall than in the spring. So we're talking about your hound over your blooper, and then anything that represents a shad. But if you got schoolers, you got clear water, topwater is always a good option. And my favorite bait personally is a spinnerbait because it's so versatile. You can fish it shallow, deep. It covers a lot of different scenarios. So you definitely want to do that. Right here, I got shallow grass. There's this time of year, the grass walls up and the bass are on little points. Points are fantastic in the fall, no matter what the body of water is. If you're in a little creek, if you're in a pond, if you're on a huge lake, they tend to migrate out to those points, and that's where you'll find a lot of the bait fish as well. So right now I've got a 3/8 ounce zinger on. That allows me to keep it above the grass. You could also go swim jig if you got really thick grass and clear water and you don't want to throw the blades, but I like the flash spinnerbaits. It's one of my favorite baits to throw. So I'm fishing this on one of our new rods. This is a Googan Squad series rod that we designed with Catch Codes. This is the go-to. You can fish a ton of stuff on this, but it's really perfect for spinnerbaits, bladed jigs and things like that. I've got it on 15-pound fluorocarbon high-speed gear ratio reel. And I'm telling you, no matter if you're fishing shallow vegetation or anything really, this setup right here is fantastic for just your meat and potato stuff like spinnerbaits. I'm looking for anything that has a difference in it. There's just so much grass. Late summer, early fall, lakes that have grass just gets walled up. We have hydrilla and milfoil in here. And you can do two things. You can find the edge, and bass are always relating to edges and points and things like that. Or you can fish the actual grass walls. Oh my gosh, that one was just out in the open in a hole. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm throwing a spinnerbait going after these fish that are pretty active, chasing bait in these open areas. But an advanced technique that you could do that I've done in the past on a lot of our lakes here in Texas and especially East Texas that have a ton of grass is you can take your bait, put a heavy weight on, and actually go through the grass. And you're getting those bass that are hiding down there deep in the thick cover. And that's really hard to do. I much prefer this technique if it works. So we're gonna work our way through this heavy grass and look for the little holes. And polarized sunglasses are really important for this type of fishing. You know, whether it's a little stump that's sticking out or a hole. In this case, we have little openings, and those fish are gonna reside on those little open areas, those spots that are changing. Bass are just creatures of living on edges and change. Oh, there's another hole, nailed it. Got it in the hole. Not the one I was dreaming about, but he was still on cue in that little color change. So number one, I'm gonna say, is the spinnerbait. I don't leave home in the fall without a spinnerbait tied on. Usually it's a shad color spinnerbait. Today, since we've got so many bluegill running around in here, I'm fishing more of that shallow. I just had a bluegill eat my spinnerbait right there. Fishing more of that shallow bluegill spinnerbait game. But a lot of times I've got a chartreuse and white or some sort of shad colored, usually a 1/2 ounce spinnerbait tied on. And then when I'm not doing as much target casting, I've got kind of some broken up bank, maybe I'm not sure, or I've got some schoolers, definitely have a lipless crankbait tied on. I've got usually a 1/2 ounce or like a 3/8, something that you can just fan cast around and you can cover a ton of water with. And a lot of times if you see them come up, pop shad, school, that's what you want to fire out there. They get on that top water a little bit sometimes, but the lipless crankbait subsurface, start and stop, it is a money maker in the fall. So number 3, as a sidekick to that lipless crankbait, I'm gonna go square bill crankbait. And I can just get that in much more debris-filled areas. I can knock that off of logs, stumps, docks. It's a little different look than that spinnerbait. Bounces back. Sometimes they want that. And so a square bill crankbait works really well in the fall. Number 4, we'll bounce back to that top water. I like to have some sort of walking style bait. And sometimes I'll fish it as a standalone, like I'm trying to get draw up a strike. But usually I keep that hanging over the side of the boat like this, like ready to go. So if I see a fish pop up, they're feeding at the surface, you got about 5 seconds to grab that thing, whip it out there, and hopefully you get close enough in the area to get that fish to come up. That happens all the time in the fall. You get random schoolers, they're chasing around shad, and it's a really good idea to have that ready to go. Number 5. Everyone's favorite, the frog. If you got shallow water, anything, the fall becomes just spectacular for frogs because vegetation's at its highest. You get that really thick stuff. It's hard to get baits through sometimes. That's where the frog excels. And you just catch big fish on frogs. It's proven. Jigs, frogs, if you want to catch big fish, you need to get you some of those. But in the fall, when the water cools down in the 70s, they get shallow, get in the thick stuff. The frog is a key bait, key. And I'm about to catch one on it. It's gonna be a big one too. Hate to brag. Big one. Come here. Come here, baby. Oh yeah. Oh gosh. Get out of there. I'm gonna take this muscle rod. We're gonna sling in a dandy, boy. That's why we throw a frog in the fall. Right there. Holy cow, that guy slurped it. Look at the belly. Look at the belly. We've caught some nice fish today, like just those typical fall ones. You catch a lot of like 1-pounders. They get in that little size class, and then you just get a random big one in the fall, and usually it's on something like this. Absolutely hammered that popping filthy frog right there. Big tasty meal. Shoo! Oh, little one got it. He didn't even make a pop. He's not tiny. I'll take you, dude. I'll take you. I'll take you. I'm not scared to do an outro with you, dude. You're a perfectly fine outro, 14-inch standard, just good old North American largemouth grass bass. So there you have it, folks. Frog bite only gets better in the evenings, top water as well. Look for fish to come up and school in those low light hours. That's when you really can capitalize. But sometimes they'll pop up during midday too. Just be ready. But that's my fall tips for today. Make sure to stay tuned here at the channel for more. So subscribe and you'll keep getting tasty tips like this. See y'all on the next one.